Tina was an orphan boy that reincarnated into a different world after accidentally meeting his doom in this new world. However, the 7 gods bestowed upon him a cheat leveling system, granting him stats to become the most overpowered human ever. While walking home one day, Sheena saw people rushing out of a store chaotically, and 2 girls tripped right next to him. The thief waved his knife around and began sprinting towards the ladies, but instead of abandoning them, Sheena rushed towards him, tackling him down. He screamed at the girls to escape, but before he knew it, he began bleeding out of his stomach, causing the bandit to run away in fear. In his last moments, he was glad to have saved those 2 girls, but wished he didn't end up making them cry. His consciousness began fading, but when he opened his eyes, he found himself in a mysterious room. A maid began crying and calling him Cain, confusing him. Mommy milkers came to hug Cain, asking him if he remembers his mother. None of this makes any sense to Cain, but when he takes a single glance at the mirror, he begins panicking, wondering who he's become. After being in a coma for a week, the maid thinks that his fever is messing with his memory. His mother asks Sylvia to go and prepare him soup, and after they leave the room. After she left the room, Cain was able to extract all the information he wanted out of her. His name is Cain von Silford. What a name! A 3-year-old boy born to Garm and Sarah, with a sister called Riani. However, Garm is a top G and has a second wife, Maria, who has given birth to his 2 older siblings. His father is a high-ranking margrave and commands an army to protect his kingdom's borders from a forest of monsters. Cain is excited to hear there are monsters, but the maid tells him there are adventurers who can wield magic, and Cain gets excited. Sylvia promises to teach him some magic as long as he can learn to read, so he begins practicing right away. When Cain learned about magic, he knew he wanted to live the rest of his life here because in his last world, his parents had already perished, and his last relative, his grandpa, had just passed away, leaving him with nothing to miss. The mischievous plotmaker is already cooking up fire with his hand. He realizes that he can already use magic and has achieved every otaku's dream. But while casting his next spell, his hands burn, and he begins losing control. Cain thinks that these magical abilities will allow him to become the strongest edgelord. The only thing left to complete his otaku dreams is a siscon relationship to top this all off. The day finally came. He walked inside with his new outfit, and his family was impressed by how handsome he'd become. They head to the church for Cain to receive his protection, and the priest begins the baptism. Before their eyes, the pillars of the gods begin to shine a blinding light, and Cain is teleported to meet with all 7 gods. They welcome him by his real name, Sheena, and Cain wonders what the heaven is going on. Xenon, the god of creation, introduces himself, but Cain thinks Christmas came early this year because this nutcase looks like Santa Claus. Santa tells him that he can hear everything he's thinking and moves on to talk about his reincarnation. Cain's death was unexpected because, in reality, even if he didn't stop the criminal, he would have fallen, and everyone would have restrained him. He's basically just a useless weeb who he seconded himself, because he wanted to simp over 2 girls. The goddess apologizes for being so harsh, but since he met his doom for a good deed, they reincarnated him to keep his life going. Even though he looks stupid, Cain isn't upset one bit. After all, he's been reincarnated into a loving family and can now use magic, which is one of his dreams. Reno, the god of magic, bestows upon him the protection of magic, since he's been working so hard. Xenon grants him his protection as well, along with the god of war, making him the strongest jiu-jitsu warrior there is. The god of technology grants him a bigger brain so he can stop simping over women, and the god of commerce grants him the judgment ability and an item box so he can become the richest top G. The god of earth comes and gives him the greatest protection of all, the power to develop plot. Xenon tells him that his status window will show him the effect of all of his protections and starts laughing before sending him back. The priest has never seen the statues shining so much. So Garm asks to see his status window right away. However, Cain has a bad feeling about this, so he runs away to the bathroom to check his status. It's worse than he ever expected because every single one of his protections is level 10, double the highest level in this world. Cain knows that he needs to hide all of this and sees a secret ability granted to him called Status Conceal, which he uses to hide his strength. On the day of his birthday ceremony, his father asks him what he aspires to become in his future. Cain reveals to everyone that he wants to travel across the lands and help all sorts of people, so in order to protect everyone's smiles, he will become an adventurer. After hearing the determination in his voice, Garm promised to hire a tutor for him. Inside his bedroom, he wondered what his tutor would be like, but she had finally arrived. Cain was so excited that he ran to the window and accidentally teleported outside, falling in the most convenient position possible. He apologized to the girl, and the butler introduced Cain's two tutors, Millie and Nina, inside the mansion. Millie struggles while she fantasizes about why Garm has been given the title biggest within the country, but Cain is too busy noticing that Nina is an elf. Garm says they don't need to be so formal, and Cain asks them to talk with him as if he was their friend. Millie is excited to finally teach him, and they begin lessons right away. After seeing Cain's ability during practice, the girls realize that they're basically useless if they were to try to teach him anything. Over here, he would end up destroying the entire mansion. So Cain suggests they go outside the mansion to study. He's never left the premises, so Millie and Nina think it would be better for him to go outside anyway. They explain to Garm that Cain's abilities will destroy the mansion, and Garm panics when he finds out his son is this strong on the first day. He knew this day would come eventually but hoped Cain would mature more first. Reluctantly, Garm agrees to let him go outside on the condition that he never enters the forest. Cain promises that he will, and he leaves the mansion for the first time with his tutors. Nina begins with his magic training and asks him to demonstrate his intermediate level magic immediately. Cain readies a fire spell and casts it towards the stone, knocking both of the girls and leaving a giant crater where the stone once was. They wonder if consuming all that mana has tired him out, but Cain hasn't broken a single sweat. Millie warns him to never go inside the forest since it has legendary monsters living inside. Every few decades, all the monsters try to break into the city, which is why their wall is so fortified. Cain realizes how dangerous it is, but wishes to one day explore it on his own. After years of training and enjoying their time together, Cain has grown into a charming, tall man. Sylvia lets him know that his final class with his tutors will be in a few days, and Cain is excited because he wishes to find a way to thank them. He remembers that Millie wanted a magic bag. So that night, Cain snuck into the deepest parts of the dark forests. A blood ogre appeared before him. Next, he defeated an earth dragon, and the guards thought that a monster rampage was about to commence this decade. The entire army was deployed, and Garm led the troops to defeat them. Cain's collected everything he's come to get and teleports away, leaving behind his towel. Garm arrives at the scene, and his subordinate informs him that all the monsters have been eliminated in the forest. Wondering who could be so overpowered, Garm looks at the ground to find his towel, shocking every bone in his body. The final day of Cain's tutoring arrives, leaving Millie and Nina with a bittersweet feeling for having been with him all this time. They come and let him know that today will be his graduation and congratulate him on working hard for the last 3 years. Cain thanks them for all the time they've been with him, so he hopes that the magical bags he's created for them will show them how grateful he is. He's collected the materials from the blood ogre and earth dragon inside the forest, but he tells them not to worry because they're just regular bags that won't hold too much, just an entire mansion. Sensational! Millie and Nina thank him for doing all this, and they tell him that if he ever needs their help when he grows up, he can always come to them, and they can help him with anything he needs help with. At that moment, their contract was over. Thanks for watching. Part 2 will be uploaded soon. Do like and subscribe if you like the video, and press the bell icon for more anime. Until then, goodbye.